been participants in this lovely march on this day, honorary to the mental health of the brain. Speak to us about what it means and what area of study are you involved in?
So I particularly am involved in prenatal stress and febrile seizures, so leading up towards epilepsy. So the point of today was just to raise awareness that things like this isn't sort of something you can just brush off. It's something that you have to look after. Your brain really does matter. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm just a participant here to support mental health awareness.
Awesome. Member of the public, thank you for coming for support.
Yeah, it was an awesome run. It was a good long walk. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Another student that participated in this lovely march here today, this walk rather, by the UKZN. Tell us, what area of study are you involved in the UKZN, and what does this say to you on a day of this nature, and what do you feel that communities should do?
So my study is basically on epilepsy and the cognitive deficits, which is basically like the learning and memory deficits that come with having epilepsy. So often when people are epileptic, they're only worried about just having the seizure, and it happens very, very, like, not a lot. They're not always having a seizure, but there's so many other comorbidities that accompany the seizures and the epilepsy itself that we don't talk about, and they're all connected to the brain. So often they're anxious because they're always wondering, when am I going to have a seizure? They become forgetful because the seizures damage their brain. And on a day like this, we just want people to know that, you know what, when you have a mental disorder or any brain disease, it's not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that can be treated just like any other disease, basically. Yeah.
You know, Dr. Kulu made a mention of us in the black communities and how it's so stigmatized, and we have these silly terms that are thrown at a person who's got ikonsi and so on. But then with you guys as medical practitioners, really, you see it differently. You don't see ikonsi, you see something else. So what would you say, if you had to say as a student, the government needs to do to ensure that that there is more presence, educational presence, mental educational presence in the communities thus on?
Right, so we know that we have a burden of so many other diseases like HIV and diabetes, but most of them are always accompanied with some kind of mental disorder, because all of that, like I said, it causes anxiety, it makes people sad and depressed, it can lead to so many things. So as much as they educate about other, diseases, they should also have educational drives about all of these other brain diseases, so that people are aware that it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not a curse, you're not bewitched, you don't have any kind of abnormality that is, supernatural, but it's something that can be treated, and that people are working on to find strategies to treat in an African setting. So more education and more awareness is needed, especially from the government. Yeah, that's what I think.
All right. Thank you very much.
And money, yes, he's right. Thank you.
More funding.
More funding, please. More funding.
More funding for such initiatives. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that, as part of you as students as well, that you recognize in our communities and that you'd like to add towards what your colleague has said?
I think she covered. That's kind of everything. Just have to end this thing, more funding should be. Well, I think she covered pretty much everything. You just need to add more funding and ethnic stigma, and this is something that should be talked about in radio as well. As much as they advertise or talk about prevention of HIV, diabetes and everything, there need to be a lot more coverage of mental health awareness. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Stigma. What's your doctor? Early detection. Saves lives. Early detection. Saves lives.